Okay, this is my second go recording this because I stumbled too much in my first one. I got a new mic. I don't know if I like it yet. It doesn't matter though, because I managed to pay only the correct amount of money for it as opposed to too much, because it's a wavelength and they were getting scalped. They're still being scalped on Amazon. It's dumb, but I managed to buy one off of, I think, Best Buy. And so I paid only MSRP instead of like $400 or $500 I've seen them going for. So in the Automation Innovation update, the update kind of fucked my old oxygen generator. And because it was a new update anyway, I was going to start a new map. And I'm relearning stuff and going slowly. That's why we're at 388 and this is all the base that I have. I have not explored anywhere. But I finally got this monstrosity running once I got some Drekos. I had like one little lonely glossy Draco there, and now he's up here. What is wrong with him? Oh, he was crawling. So this is my behemoth. There's lots of piping that I'll go over in a little bit, and then there's this reservoir mess over here. I'll go over that in a little bit, and then I have this Liam here generating power, running his little heart out, and this puddle of water is so that generator does not overheat. That puddle of water is enough to put the heat from the generator into the tiles, and nothing dies or explodes, and it's all good. So this makes 4 times 888. Like 3.5 kilograms of oxygen per second. That's enough for a lot of dupes, more than I have, which is why the pipes are weird. Now, this suffers from a problem that it is not power neutral because of how much extra junk I have going on here. When it's just kind of, floating along and nothing's being an issue, it uses about 3.3 kilowatts. When everything is going full bore, it uses about 4.4. And you're almost never going to see the 4.4 in use until your oxygen and hydrogen needs really start to spike. Like towards the end game where you're making liquid oxygen and hydrogen, but then you can just do something else. And part of the reason why I'm power constrained is because I do not yet have the natural energy achievement yet. And after that, I'll start making petroleum and coal and all that kind of stuff. Matter of fact, I have some slicksters that are very sad. These are my little slickster colony being kept warm by a kiln, and I've managed to make about 1,200 kilograms of crude oil. So onto this mess. We've got oxygen compressor here, hydrogen compressor here, this hydrogen reservoir to make sure that these guys don't run out of hydrogen burn, and I have my cooling loop here. I know a lot of people use their input water to do their cooling for their oxygen generation. The reason why I don't, and this is so heavily over-engineered, is because in my last game I was feeding this out of a water geyser, and the geyser was making really hot water, so it would heat everything up. So just self-contained cooling source is where it's at. Now when you include all the everything, this is a 28 by 17 structure. It's big, and part of why I built it in this light also because using this light's cool. First, let's go through the water. Here's the water coming in. I have an input shutoff that's tied to these gas reservoirs so that when they're full, I don't waste water and clog everything up. They eventually go up and feed my suits, so there will be good use for it. And this is a polluted water cooling loop, just because polluted water has a lower and higher temperatures of transition, so don't worry about it. As far as ventilation goes, ventilation is kind of a pain. As you'll notice here, everyone has their standard thing where these bottom ones pick up oxygen, the one on top picks up hydrogen because of the way the gases naturally separate. But notice that I have oxygen coming in here. Well, that's okay, because I have a mechanical filter here that separates out the hydrogen, sending it on its way. And notice the oxygen gets dumped back into the chamber where it'll eventually get picked up by these guys. Because occasionally hydrogen will sneak into here, I have this other hydrogen extracting loop that has to be outside of this. I've tried to stick mechanical filters for the oxygen in here, and the only way to do it is to make it obnoxiously huge, and I'm just not down with that. And so the hydrogen comes up here and pass through this, picking up heat hopefully, and gets burnt off. And there's this little gas vent in here that is finally being skipped because the gas pressure in here is getting around 2 kilograms a square. Once that happens, then these final hydrogen generators will get filled up. Why aren't they getting filled up? Why don't we have hydrogen? Oh, we're disabled by the automation. Well, that's fine. You'll pick up your hydrogen once these start, the batteries get low enough. So, that's that. Oxygen, of course, goes out to wherever it goes out. This is the oxygen compressor side. Now, the hydrogen, once it fills up the gas reservoir, then it will back up and start spilling out into here, where it splits off into my hydrogen compressor and this chamber right here, which is currently a vacuum, but will eventually have hydrogen to help distribute the heat from this steam turbine. I should have enough, leeway here. Nice, the hydrogen generators fill up. Because the steam turbine is 1400 for the overheat temperature, but right now it's only around 300. So it'll be fine. Also, it's not running very often because the steam just isn't hot enough because the cooling loop is doing its job. See the batteries are filled. Oh, look at the hydrogen starting to back up, and this is overpressured. So eventually, hydrogen will get in there. Shouldn't be too long. So this is the gases. We did the water. The water is, of course, very simple. Automation is also simple. Battery turns the hydrogen generators on and off. Because this system is power hungry, you don't need to have a shutoff for the steam turbine. This will never provide enough power to keep this thing running, so don't worry about it. Automation here for half, and the other half of the oxygen vents, this one for the hydrogen. And this is my door compressor. I got a note on my door compressor logic video saying that the automation was busted. It's not. I just suggest you pay attention to the timings, which you can see very clearly here. This bridge right here for the automation is the one thing that I had to stick in to compensate for the automation input on the vent. And this is my monstrously huge oxygen machine. I can't remember if I said power notes. This is, like I said, this is my second time recording, so I only have already. At peak power usage, this will draw 4.4 kilowatts, and of course, this does not make 4.4 kilowatts of power. The power from the steam turbine is insignificant, so ignore that. But it makes 120 times 4, so it makes 448 grams of hydrogen. You can multiply this by, let's see, 448 divided by 500. So times 800. Each one of those guys is making 700 joules times 5. So this makes 3.5 kilowatts here. And then, like I said, this is insignificant. So this will be power negative. If everything is running at full capacity, and as you can see, it's not. These guys aren't running. This is, and you know, my batteries are draining. It does take care of itself, but you do need to send in power every so often, which is why I have this guy in here. Notice that I have a vacuum chamber in here to keep the heat inside of the steam turbine chamber, and other than that, you just have some heat bleeding over here from this chamber into that, but this shouldn't matter. Also, this is being cooled, you know, so other than that, the entire power network is connected to itself. I do wish I'd run power lines through these doors so that I could get rid of the plug, but you know, it's fine. Why did this cut off? Because these guys are full. See, that's this automation work. One thing I do want to point out about this automation here, if you have a whole bunch of these guys, i.e. more than 2 to pay attention to, the logic that I wanted was that if any one of them is full, the whole thing turns off. So in order to do that, you need 2 NOT gates. These first NOT gates turn these offs into ons, and then the ons into offs, which allows me to use a single automation wire as effectively an AND gate. I mean, you take the logical negation. If any one is true, then the negation of that is they must all be false, which is what this last one in here is here. And if any one of these is false, then they must all be. Then, I mean, it works. Trust me. On the other end of this, you can put as many gas reservoirs, and if any one gas reservoir gets full, it's taken care of. Anyway, yeah, this is my monstrosity. In the meantime, please remember to brush teeth, wear your seatbelt, and try to be kind to one another.